Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Four Checks cast. We are your Four Checks. I'm Justin Burch.
I'm Kevin Broberg.
Tim Keefe.
And I'm Will Godbey.
And we're here to bring you everything there is to know about the last week of universes. So, we kind of talked about this in the pre-show, but are y'all feeling good so far with like AOT season, preview season? Have we kind of liked where everything is before we get into our first main topic?
More or less.
I'm enjoying the vibes.
I'm excited to see the full set in terms of this is probably going to be the last set in which we're building on the forecheck theme and certain like weapon themes and things like that have existed in the first two set that they're probably going to try to carry over in some amount of spirit in this set, but we might not see as like a featured part of a set down the road, depending. Right? I don't think we had any forechecks in Critical Role, for instance. So I'm interested to see what sort of the final packages for some of those look like.
Oh, absolutely.
I've been thinking brainworms today about the three symbols that are on the bulk of the forechecks are on Toga 3, and what if we just don't care about weapons and try to build a forecheck Toga 3 and see what that looks like? But I'm like, let's see this whole set first and then see what we can do there,
Right.
The marginal gains of doing that versus like being Mirko is cannot be right.
Mirko doesn't have life.
You know what might be really fun for that Toga 3 deck, and we'll have to see. Warhammer Titan is the one character we haven't seen yet. At least that's what we all think based on the coded message.
It is.
Yeah, I think I can say that with confidence. It's life, death, and Warhammer is a Titan character who makes weapons in the show.
Oh, interesting.
So if we get like Titan weapon forechecks, which would be very in line, because also life, death has been our like forecheck angled characters, really. You might actually, Toga 3 forecheck might be something really worth considering, especially like playing knockdown blows to go into like some of those might be sick.
Dude, Ultra Hard Steel is a good ass card. 8 make 10, like that's real shit.
And before they're actually catering to Kevin and not you, Justin, and it's actually just Momo 1, but with death and life.
No!
Because it makes weapons.
No! No way! That means they reprint Staff Strike. No way!
I never even started to think about that. Oh man, wait.
It's fine. It's a 4-check staff strike. You'll be happy.
Can I block and build it into Armor Axe?
when is our combo forecheck attack?
Oh,
that would be so neat.
Dude, we have combo 3 difficulty. Combo 4 check. Like, it doesn't have to be 4 check attack. Just combo 4 check.
Exactly.
Foundation if you want.
Cool.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Guys, I would be so beyond excited for that. All right. But we do have stuff we actually want to talk about today. So this has kind of been an off day because without the last character being revealed, we don't really want to start talking about what characters we like from the set, just in case anyone wants to yap about Warhammer Titan. So we're going to take an opportunity to talk about some things that have kind of built up over the last couple of weeks in universes. And the first one we want to start with is the reward store, because the reward store has been a very contentious issue since it's had its new form. And so before we get into like what its new form looks like, I'm curious, how much did you guys use the old reward store when it was a thing?
I certainly ordered the like the Harley Quinn Joker things, like when they had those kind of promos.
Yeah.
I don't know if I redeemed. I know I redeemed in person a few times for promos. I don't think I ever messed around with the shipped options too much. Basically, just had my giant horde of LP that I kind of sat on forever.
Yeah, I pretty much got a set of each new alt art and put it up for sale. It was
I like collecting stuff, so I would redeem basically every time it came out because a lot of the times the cards were really cool.
Sure. And so, and I know I really just focus on the mechanically unique promos. Like, I as someone who struggles to make time to go to locals, sometimes, and my locals hates me for it. Back when like the mechanically unique promos were coming up on the reward store, it was a really easy way for me to get some of those additional cards. And then afterwards, like, I got the con promos like the Harley Quinn and Joker, and like even though I had them, I got an extra set of like the Tekken 8 characters and all of that, just to make sure that I had a good number of each. So did you guys think the old reward store was lacking in any way? I'm curious.
I know one thing that I can't imagine anyone's like gonna get like provide this as positive feedback of the reward store, but the fact that they had like 200 items on it or whatever was a problem and
Yes.
was not going to get better.
Sure.
And so like I think that's it's not so much that it had an absence of a positive, but it had a presence of like unnavigability, right?
Sure.
It had problems building up that way.
Yeah, I mean, imagine your new players. Like, you could spend your reward points, then you open that thing. Like, good luck.
Sometimes they ran into that a little bit when they put up a reward store that says these are mechanically unique promos that are can't get anywhere else. Granted, yeah.
And they weren't even sorted that well either.
Yeah.
Oh, the sorting definitely was a big issue for me. But
I think,
so besides
size, I think the reward store is also like boring and unimportant for the most part.
Oh yeah. I think like especially after Worlds and that kind of in between where it was Worlds and before the changes to the store, you're kind of looking at a lot of the now retro promos because the MHA 1, 2s, and 3s weren't legal, and you're like, why are these still here? Most people who are playing retro and would want these have gotten them 50 years ago. We don't really need to keep these in the store. Did anyone have a problem with the content that was in the store? Like, obviously too much of it, but like, did anyone feel like there was stuff that was missing that should be on the store?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially this week, I think we're seeing it's hard because it's in retrospect now, right?
Yeah.
But I think they're doing things with the rotating store that they couldn't do with the old store. You couldn't put sleeves on the old store that are available for sale at retail.
Sure.
Just on your loyalty store. If it's just for a week, you can kind of do that, right? And probably get some griping from stores, but nothing crazy, right? Like, people are going to redeem for their sleeves. They might like the sleeves. They might want more of that type of sleeve in the future. And now they're not available anymore. What are they going to wait and hope they come back? They're going to go buy some at their local game store,
Sure. That's fair.
So there's stuff like that they're doing, that they have products like that they might have some laying around that they can put up on the store that is more viable as a temporary thing than it would be as a permanent thing.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Will?
I mean, basically the same thing. Like, I do agree that it is kind of rough to just slap stuff that's being sold in stores on the redemption shop. Dan in the chat just made up a good suggestion of bringing back the custom playmats, but I don't know if we make them in-house anymore, so that would be kind of hard to do. But if we did make playmats in-house again, I would absolutely love that option to come back.
For my new heads in chat, they used to, back in the Jasco era, you could get any card art that they had the rights to, if I remember correctly, put on a custom playmat for like a ridiculous number of at that point it was really almost all wrappers points through their wrapper system.
It was like 500, but 500 when it's only wrappers is a lot.
I mean, that's more than 20 boxes, like 21,
exactly.
22 boxes.
Right.
Basically save up for a while. And
I'm imagining the difference between Jason Haraski's lawyers and UVS Games lawyers, and what would ensue, and like how much legalese and restrictions there would be if they tried to do that today.
Oh yeah.
Oh sure, yeah.
Because like that's like making merchandise off of established IP on an on-order business where people just get to say, "Hey, I want this card art." I am sure that would be legal hell. Jason just didn't really care, I don't think.
I mean, or may have had a lawyer situation that was a little more open, a little more willing to ask for forgiveness rather than for permission.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Move fast and break things, yeah.
Also, we did have a lot more commissioned art back then, I think, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Because Street Fighter and Soul Calibur both had a lot of...
It may have been more,
commissioned art.
But kind of give some prelude to the reward story. Anyone who remembers, they did kind of the survey about what was going to be on the reward story, and I was kind of confused by the survey myself. I don't know how you guys kind of answer, but I kind of started looking at it and I'm like, I mean, I don't know what new things I would really be asking for besides, I guess, like sleeves and like the dice and things like that.
Right.
Did you guys have anything like particularly out there you saw you were like, oh, that needs to be in the reward store in that survey?
I honestly don't even remember that survey.
Yeah.
I remember it happened.
Like a few months ago, or like 6 months ago, or like a year ago.
Don't put
remember.
Albion's Legacy on there, no matter how much you want to get rid of it.
So then, fast forward to I think now 2 months ago, I think is around when it happens, and they said that they took the results from it and they said they were going to revamp the store and we're going to change it. And the first week we did the new store, I don't want to speak for everyone else, but I thought it was insanely cool. We cut it down. We got rid of the retro promos from being there. And we got the DLC from Cowboy Bebop. We got the Cowboy Bebop structure decks, or challenger decks. And we got boxes of Bebop, which as someone who like came in right after Bebop, so I didn't get to buy that stuff in store, I thought that was insanely cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they came out of the gates firing with that. I remember like standing around the lobby in Denver and like we were crapping our pants about what was up on the reward store and what we could get with our giant piles of points.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's almost an entirely different category from hand in your booster packs to get stuff. This is like just playing events and get a big pile of points and then redeem those points for dope stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So I think like I don't want to speak over Tim and Will. What did you guys think when you saw that kind of first week back?
I think it kind of figured that wasn't going to be what every week looked like.
Of course.
I think
not wrong.
they're going to have to try to find a balance here, because they're only going to have a limited amount of like exciting stuff they can do, and you don't want to put all the lame stuff in 1 week and all the cool stuff in 1 week, and
Right.
But that's going to be hard for them to manage, I think, unless they come up with some new categories of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely think it was really cool they gave us all the old Bebop stuff right out the gate, but at the same time, it sets up the expectation that we'll see other retro sets hop up there, and I just don't know if we're even going to remotely see that.
Sure. No, absolutely.
I bet Seventh Cross makes an appearance.
It might.
That's the one they probably have a lot of.
As long as we're allowed to do it, absolutely. Hey, I could maybe even see some old, if they still have them, old Red Horizon 1 or Blood Omen boxes go up there.
I think they want to have as minimal an association with Red Horizon as conceivably possible.
But if they have it, they might still want to get rid of it.
They use it as kindling before.
That's probably fair.
Yes, it's definitely kind of a sine wave of hype, right? You can't have the biggest wave every week. You gotta, and there's necessarily going to be some down weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do think
they came back this week. I'm excited about my Challenger series I got.
Yeah. I do think they have to. Anything that's rotated but like looks like it might not be rotated, right? It sells relatively new card frames or something. I think they probably just shouldn't put in there because it feels like you're tricking new players. Mm-hmm. Or you maybe at some point set up a second store for stuff that's just like the rotated promo store. We're never going to put these on our weekly rotation and make you think we want you to care about them, but they're here in case you really want them,
Yeah, it's a tricky balancing act because I think I thought the Bebop Challenger not Challenger series, the starter decks, right? Like the Spike versus Vicious, like that's nakedly not legal in standard. That's very, very not legal in standard. But I thought it was really cool to have up there.
Yeah. I think it's cool to have old stuff up there, just not.
Yeah,
I'm just like the 1 week where they put a bunch of cards mechanically unique exclamation point.
Yeah, tag
MHA card
retro or something, please. Yeah. So I think that's a fairly minor improvement in the grand scheme of things. Like we're kind of looking out for people who don't watch the show ultimately.
Right.
Yeah, no. Sorry, I was trying to see what was going on with our stream. We were having some minor freezing issues. I did think this week was like a good back to form. I like that you mentioned the challenger decks. What would a reward store for the next couple of weeks? What would do you think would be a cycle that they could realistically do? What would you think that would look like? Just know what we're kind of aiming for to say UVS Games is doing a good job if they hit this.
I mean, I think for my own personal expectations, I don't expect to be excited about every week, and I don't think that's like the. I think that a sustainable cadence will have me very excited for like 1 week a month or something, or like 2 weeks a month maybe, and then kind of like see the update and say, oh, is this art for this? Is this like a sleeve that I care about or something, or is this? Or do I want to get some more dice in this brand? Say I could use some more dice, but I probably was gonna pick some up at a prize wall at some point.
Sure.
Yeah, I think so long as they have, currently legal alt arts on there most weeks, or some like baseline of, every week there's going to be something where if you had missed it, you might want to go pick it up, right? That kind of thing. I think they certainly shouldn't plan around Discord and Facebook discourse or anything like that. But as a loose goal, right? Don't have a week where people's immediate reaction is going to be like, "Oh my god, that's embarrassing,"
Yeah.
Actually, one thing that I think is, they have a couple different sets of. I found out recently that there are a number of like $50 regional promos from last year, where I put together a binder to trade with people and have been trying to pick up female Titan attacks, and like some opportunity players like, yeah, please, nice tries. These are $50. These number 10 pro heroes, these are $50. And selfishly, I don't want them to put a bunch of those up on the reward store and have them take the value.
Oh yeah.
I mean, sure, yeah.
That will always be the issue for something like this, is trying to figure out what the line is, where you're trying to make it cool for collectors, cool for people who have a bunch of stuff, because this is for really people who go to a bunch of events and have a bunch of stuff. But you also want to like keep the preserving what people have, and I don't know exactly how they're going to find that line there.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it'd be fine. Like if they put up like, here are 50 nice tries this week. Good luck getting in line, guys. I mean, I think in an ideal world they could even like get some Ticketmaster queuing lottery nonsense for that.
I have to push back a little on that, and I hate to be the one to defend the international community for a second here. But the international community.
I thought this was your face arc.
I know.
Why do you hate to defend the international community?
So, I do think it would be really hard to find a time if you want to do like a really limited release. Hard to find a time where like EU, OCE, and NA all feel like they have roughly even chances to get the thing. Like, that was already an issue we hit with Bebop, from my understanding. Like, a lot of the EU people and OCE people woke up to, oh, these are sold out. We can't do anything. We can't get these now. Sucks. And I think that's why they moved it back to now it's 2 p.m. because that increases the chance that they can like get it in that situation. But I also, I'll tell you what I want. I want more retro product, and I don't know how hard that is to do. But I think there are like some obvious ones, and a few people in the chat have said it. Actually, no, I think it's Kevin's alt that has said it as one of them.
Daniel said it Daniel reminded me. Yeah, old champ cards is like home run.
The number one every single week. If I was in charge of the reward store, and we have enough of the product of each, of course, every single week it would be a different champ card would go up that each person can redeem one of. And you may even like line them up by like year. So maybe you start off with like 2019 and go back.
Yeah, they surely have 0 of those.
Yeah,
presently. Fair. Right. They would have to make new print runs, and old champ cards with new card frames would be cool, but they'd have to go secure the art. They probably don't have the art either. They'd have to go ask us like, hey Tim, do you have the art on your PC? I do, but not everyone will.
That's fair. I mean, it would be certainly very cool if they could do it, but I totally understand the hurdles that people have to jump through to make that happen.
Yeah, Jasco Games did a lot of stuff just like, oh, it saved on my laptop, and then when that laptop died, they lost the stuff or things like that. There's a very, there's certainly a pre everyone uses Google Drive era going on here that a lot of stuff was lost.
I do feel like at times that's like, not to tangent too far, but I think it is relevant when we talk about the reward store. One of the issues that we have with the world of retro is because our game was so much smaller for so long, getting access to a lot of the more niche retro products like character cards and things like that, I don't know about other people, I have found rather difficult at times to find and get and know where to look for all of that and all of that, everything like that. Which sucks when characters like Tim Keefe 2 can be very competitively relevant in retro and like a deck a lot of people like doing in retro. So I know there was some talk at the beginning of like, this is going to be, he's about to pull it out, he's going to say, come find me at a regional.
I was going to say, he's probably got a bunch in there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've still got stacks.
Tim
I don't have very much of one.
Tim, Louisville, I need at least Tim Keefe 2. But
it's a package deal. It's like getting cable. You have to take all three.
I'll take, dude.
You have to at least take 2 and 3 actually, because one's.
Hey, I think 3 is really cool. It's just I can never find an era of the game where I find enough attacks so I want to play with that character. The abilities on Tim Keefe 3 are really cool. Never have the right attack package.
3 is the one they decided they were scared of in playtesting.
Wait, Tim, does he have air?
Yes.
Tim 3? Yo, the sweeping daggers, new preview card, sublimating blade, 5-speed mid.
Oh my god, he does get sweeping daggers. Hell yeah. Time to build Tim Keefe 3 in retro.
But
no, and like the new preview, it's discard an attack, search up an attack, you get sublimating blade, that's another 5 mid 3. We're getting places.
I do think, and I know there might be licensing issues, but I think where the reward store, I would almost like it to go in the direction of. And we did some of this for UU and we got the rights back to it. But at like regionals instead of reward store, is like, let's start making retro product more available and more. Because I also think it's not just about making available where, yes, someone could go out and hunt down a spirit shotgun and buy a spirit shotgun if they wanted to. And it may not even be, I don't know how expensive it is now. But like, tell people, hey, you've wanted to like build a retro deck. Hey, we're going to have spirit shotgun you can redeem 4 of in the reward store. I know that's already a retro reprint, but we have whichever card. Coffee Samba. We have 4 Coffee Samba in the store you can get. With a new art. Get it. Start looking at retro decks. Like, if we really want to sell people on retro, the reward store feels like a great on-ramp for that.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how much UVS Games actually does. Sean certainly does, right?
Sure,
but
that's true.
UVS Games will probably start caring about retro when there's retro sets they have inventory of that's significant.
Yeah. I would be willing to bet like next year once I think Dante Raid rotates next year. That's when I would lean towards that happening.
Bro, here's what they got to put in the reward store: $100 roster CCG voucher exclusively for retro product. Gangbusters. Go crazy.
Oh man.
I don't think Sean would want to figure out how to implement that coupon on his store.
Right.
True.
But it certainly would allow people to make a bunch of retro stuff.
Also, it would make all the prices on Sean's store go even more insane.
It would be literal inflation in real time.
Listen, we're stimulating the economy. We're heating it up.
All right, since I can see that this topic's getting dangerously close to talking about politics, and that's a bad place for us to go on a Universes podcast, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing we wanted to talk about, because with AOT3 looking forward, there's a mechanic that's come about that we kind of talked a little bit last week, but we didn't really fully dive in on the implications of it. We have cards that now say, if your rival has cycled this game, get additional benefits. Now, for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to call this cycle locking because that's a term George Zhang used when his My Hero fan set was obsessed with having, I think it was Dobby, had a ton of cycle lock cards. And I think it's a cool name, so we're going to stick with it. So,
Sure.
cycle locking. What do we think about that design space?
So I think ultimately its job, its reason to exist is that you have cards that are weak early and get stronger over time. And the purpose you have that is so that you don't have people dying on turn 2, but you do have games that actually end.
Right.
And I really like how it achieves that just by having, without like taking away the agency from the game, that you still have a kind of a conversation with your opponent of how fast are they going to get themselves a cycle. But then you can actually power up to a substantial degree, and it's going to happen on turn 4 or turn 5 or turn 6 or whatever, and you can actually have a game card that's playing absolutely at that power level, even if your opponent's trying not to have it go off eventually. I don't know. In a way that basically what I'm trying to say is it's way better than Deadlock. Holy crap!
Yeah, I think
Right.
the one thing I would say, a concern with cycle lock that theoretically doesn't exist for Deadlock is you wouldn't want to make a cycle lock or strike. The one thing you don't want to do is cycle, and you don't really want to do this with Deadlock either, but sometimes they do. You don't want to do cycle lock, I'm going to win the game now kind of thing. Because then it becomes a core strategy where your whole deck's idea is to sit there and wait for your opponent to cycle, and then you're just going to win with some insane inevitability. But I think cycle lock on the scale that most Deadlock effects exist these days, like the whole in AOT set 2, there's this whole cycle of draft commons that were just like blank formant fours that had a Deadlock ability. If those were all cycle lock, those cards would have been way more compelling.
Yeah.
And like that's like completely reasonable design that you could easily imagine showing constructed here and there. And so these cards are literally just blanks for when your game breaks down in limited and no one can, and you both stall out for a really long time.
I'm kind of curious.
You put them in your deck and transfer that
to kind of see where we're kind of judging for levels here. What about a card like Risky Gamble, like a really powerful foundation that becomes a repeatable Deadlock or cycle lock ability? Do you think you could print on a 1-diff a way that flips and unflips because of how Risky Gamble works? Cycle lock, flip, destroy a rival foundation, and then a way to unflip it.
I think I'd go even further, honestly. So in set 1 of My Hero, and this was like really not important because of the particulars of it, that there's a true infinite with coordinated effort in Nightwatch, where you actually make an unlimited number of control checks at 4 difficulty over and over again, and attack your opponent for every control check you could make until they die. And I think that level of combo, you could gate that behind Cycle Lock, and it wouldn't be like if you wanted that to be a gameplay pattern in the game, Cycle Lock would be a good way to do that, where it says this is turn 5, it's turn 6, you've played a lot of game, and now I'm going to loop you with my 3-piece combo, and you deserve to lose if you can't stop it because the game's gone on long enough.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I do think the goal of Cycle Lock should be to bring the game to a conclusion. And so I think the Risky Gamble example doesn't necessarily always do that. I think if it was your turn, you could maybe do that, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
But
Risky Gamble just enhance, isn't it? What a gross card.
Yeah.
Risky Gamble's really gross.
Yeah, but and it comes. I guess that this is jumping a couple steps ahead here, but
Sure.
like Kevin said in the notes, it's also like stuff vaguely shaped like Endeavor. The general category of ways we can make cards that scale as the game gets later, right, and then get more powerful, and therefore you're able to win games. That's sort of what these big 4-check attacks can be or are supposed to be or whatever. Turn 2, you're not going to pass a big string of these things. Ostensibly, if the game goes on and you build enough foundations, you can pass 4 of these guys.
Yep.
And that can be good enough to win a game, even if they've got a big built-out board. The problem is that because Deadlock exists, you've shut the door on that kind of scaling. If you have Deadlock that's strong enough that people have to stay at 10 foundations, they don't get to make that their offensive game plan. By the same token, I think there's like a Mirko 3-5 that I really liked that never materialized because of Deadlock being what it was, where you can commit a foundation to give your attack +2 speed. That type of stuff could be late game scaling, except that if you're limited to 10 foundations, you're not allowed to have that.
I think
You know,
something.
so if Cycle Lock is sort of your go-to for this, then you also open the door to other forms of scaling that are based on foundation count that you can't do right now.
I think Deadlock is a very interesting thing to kind of touch on that angle, because I think another issue Deadlock has when it comes to designing Deadlock effects is that like it's really hard to design a Deadlock effect that feels good to punish an opponent who's at 20 foundations without utterly destroying an opponent that's at 11 foundations. Like, as a result, what Deadlock ends up either being is it's good when they're at 11 and 12 foundations and then they build to 20 and it stops mattering. Or it's good, it's a win the game when they're at 20 foundations and it's up until that point, if they at any point in between, they just lose the game.
No, that's fair. Like, I also like the thing that they're doing with Cycle Lock too, where thanks, Kevin. But I like the thing they're doing with Cycle Lock too, where the card still does a thing that's relevant early game. It's just not crazy until after the cycle happens. And I think that's a good space that you can explore, that you can explore with Deadlock, which is kind of what Tim was pointing out at with the blank 4/4s that just have a Deadlock ability. Like,
yeah, I
those
think
cards are really bad if it's not in Deadlock.
Yeah, to introduce two kind of Magic community pieces of terminology. So there are threshold mechanics, which are just things like Deadlock that say if the game state is in a certain way, do something cool. And Deadlock is very much a mechanic in that neighborhood. Usually, like Cycle Lock's kind of like that, but usually in terms for Cycle Lock of if this thing has happened, they usually use a different term than threshold, because thresholds you can get back under the threshold, so to speak. So Deadlock's a threshold mechanic, and there's also Punisher mechanics, which are mechanics that key on. So they're the archetypal form is your opponent chooses between two outcomes, but broadly, when you have a threshold mechanic that's under your opponent's control, that's really a Punisher mechanic because your opponent ultimately chooses the outcomes that they're going to have. And in terms of kind of design goals that you were talking about, Justin, it's hard to make a card that achieves this role of a Deadlock Punisher that hurts at 20 foundations, but only hurts a little isn't catastrophic at 11. Like, that's really ultimately a balancing problem that comes out of making Punisher mechanics.
Right.
That if they make a card that's like Ore Strike, that's ruinous if you're an innocent person caught in the crossfire, that you're bringing out the massive anti-Deadlock cannon that hurts people who have built a 50. But then if they make normal, like, tame Deadlock cards, like AOT2 commons, those don't matter anymore once your opponent's really, really deep in Deadlock. And it's just kind of a design limitation of Deadlock mechanically. That, like, Deadlock is not good at achieving its goals because it's a threshold mechanic under your opponent's control, because it's a Punisher mechanic. And it's kind of fundamental to what it is. And so, like, Cycle Lock just avoids all that stuff by just being a simple gate. Have you crossed this point? And then it's only lightly under their control, and it doesn't try to scale up to get more as they get deeper in Deadlock either.
Do you think it is good or bad for the theory of Cycle Lock, assuming they want to keep implementing this direction, that once you're there, you can't get out of it? Because, like, Deadlock, one of the whole things is the Deadlock dance of, like, I'm at 11, now I'm back to 10. Like, a lot of people play that dance. Do you think it's good that Cycle Lock is a binary? Once you're there, nothing changes.
I think that is great, just purely in terms of, like, players being able to understand and plan around the game, right? Like, Deadlock is so unnecessarily complicated, and just in terms of what game mechanics need to be to achieve goals. It's just like I honestly feel like Deadlock is designed to make the designers feel clever more than it's designed to make the players have better games.
Sure,
that's fair.
And, to an extent, like, the designers are putting their, like, I'm going to be a player hat on, and, like, there are satisfying moments on either side of the game with Deadlock. The players can feel clever too, but
I personally like the Deadlock dance, but I totally understand that it's not, like, super healthy for newer players. Like, I really
That's so
enjoy.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very fun to be like, oh, I'm an 11. Haha, no, I'm not. Like, take that, idiot. You played your deadlock card. I immediately got out of it. But no, I totally understand. Like, if it's better for the health of the game overall, it's something that we could probably sacrifice pretty easily.
Sure.
Yeah, and there's a big theory of mine is that like it does suck to sacrifice something that makes you feel smart, but there's a trillion ways to feel smart in universes. There's so many.
Sure,
There's like,
sure,
it's coming out
absolutely.
years, man. If only you have eyes to see. Let's play some Godzilla mirrors. We'll find some cool spots. I promise.
And then we've talked a lot about this mechanic in games. I think that's true, and I think there's a lot of value in that. But I guess my one question in that regard is like, did you not think like the idea of naturally milling out in this game is enough of a clock on people when they cycle? I'm just curious. I see Tim shaking his head.
No, absolutely not.
Have you ever actually tried to deck someone in universes?
Yeah, I decked George in Top Cut of Worlds because he was on Rodon.
Did you feel like in control of that game? Was that game like did that feel like meaningful and satisfying to accomplish that?
Did it? Okay. Because I'm a bad human being, and so sitting there and watching George unable to do a single point of damage through multiple recoup times and heals out.
It is fun to watch people squirm. I'll give you that.
I had fun. I don't think George had fun.
Right, when I recuperation time prisoned the Mirko player in Denver, I did feel really good that I had those moving pieces to do it. I did feel really guilty because I was like, man, this guy's not having an ounce of fun.
Yeah, and like I'll draw a strong delineation between that and like actually playing a mill deck that mills someone, and like having a like saying I'm going to put a clock on this game. Here's my thief mechanics. I'm going to exile top part of your deck 40 times.
Right.
Oh yeah. No, that stuff's cringe.
But
no, I'm sorry. Mill decks, like design mill decks, are cringe. I will die on that hill.
It's not cringe to feel.
I think the other way around.
And watch your opponent squirm, but it is actually based to do that. But if they're like tapping a card to make your opponent mill cards, that's the worst. No.
Yeah, I think like if a mill strategy is designed to where you still need to pass the fundamental gates of the game and like land some attacks and whatever to do the thing, but you're going to mill people instead of trying to operate against their health total. Like I think, or you have to, maybe none of them land, but you have to like play 20 attacks to do your thing or something like that, right?
Sure.
I think that's a fine thing to have in the game as an alternate path to winning that people might enjoy. Right? I don't have a problem with Night Eye in any meaningful way, right? But the middle of like, oh, this is an untimed round. I don't care if this takes 5 hours. I'm just going to sit here and play one card a turn until their deck runs out because they can't kill me and I don't need to kill them is... they made a mistake. Either they made a mistake or your deck's broken. One of those two things, right? Or their deck's not good or your deck is too good. But I don't think that gameplay pattern of like this game is over and the only reason they're not conceding is because there's no reason to.
Sure, yeah, Universes gets into the lantern control lock of like you're infinitesimally likely to win this game, but there's a chance, and those game states persist for an unbelievably long time. If the like unintentional mill player doesn't have a lot of stuff going on too, right? Like if I didn't have unexpected outcomes to be stripping Travis's hand in the World's Final, that game would have sucked even more than it sucked.
Oh yeah, like going back to the George example, I'll admit like he couldn't concede because if he drew two
like 3 ice swords, you're fine. Yeah.
Because I had 1 vast strength up, and that was what keeping him from tapping down my defense. So it was like if he drew 2 ice swords and a lethal line, and checked good enough to kill on them, it was like he might be able to get through it all, and so he couldn't quit the game. But dang, would it have been great to quit that game at some point?
Yeah, I bumped into this idea of, rather than like a broken card or a broken deck, talking about broken game states where basically like the normal rules have broken down, like the game isn't operating on the normal conditions that it's supposed to anymore. And like I think every game that's approaching mill usually is a broken game in that sense. And like you can talk about like, well, how does my deck operate in a broken game, like that kind of stuff. That's a cool, good space to be in. But if we evaluate the cards and the mechanics that the designers might try to implement to prevent games from breaking down, or to make sure that even broken games are going to have inertia to travel to the end, like the mill mechanic of making one control check a turn and then drawing one more card next turn until you gradually have whittled away the remaining 15 cards in your deck or whatever. That's a sucky way to close that game out, and I wish they would. Like it'd be great if they could find better ways to accomplish that. And certainly design space like Cycle O'Clock, I think, is hopefully going to be moving in that direction too.
Right.
So we're kind of talking the hype. Oh, sorry. Will, did you have something you want to add on?
No, I'm just agreeing, dog.
I want to make sure because Zach wanted to make sure that you were allowed to talk.
I appreciate you, Zach. I just like hearing them yap sometimes.
But so let's assume they keep designing this direction. It's kind of where this conversation is going. Is like we're assuming that this is the first step. They're going to get a little riskier and a little bigger with what they're having it do as time gets on. Maybe the URs are going to kind of push what this does. Do you think there is concern of a deck that like plays defense until the opponent cycles and then just tries to kill them? Like, do you think that they have to be really careful about that sort of design space?
Not at all.
Minimally, right?
Interesting.
As long as it's not like an Ore Strike situation. Like, as long as a Cycle Lock string looks like something that you could do by passing a string of 4 checks, or it looks like something that you could do by having, the right foundation setup or scaling character, or right. As long as the Cycle Lock gameplay pattern is something within the realm of a thing that you might expect a deck to be able to do after 6 turns, it's just better at it or something.
Right.
Like, I think that's fine.
Yeah, and so I think competitive from a competitive player point of view, or like from a competitive game balance point of view, that kind of deck would be extremely exploitable as long as you're playing cards that give you power on turn 4. If your opponent's just gonna say, listen, you have complete free reign until you cycle, and I show up with a 90 card deck that is playing a bunch of Spirit Gun Megas, like they're in checkmate. Like the match is already over, and we just sat down.
Yeah,
that's true. That's actually a very interesting difference between Cycle Lock and Deadlock, which is like the relevancy of Cycle Lock, I feel like, varies way more based on the opponent's deck because of how we don't have a max deck size. Whereas like almost every deck in the game, with some exceptions, if they're afforded the ability to go into higher foundations, they don't really mind it and will have hands where they kind of need to do it. There are exceptions for like self blow up a million times decks. But I think you are right that like, yeah, there are decks that play 90, 100. I mean, by the time you cycle a Nick Reagan, the Nick Reagan's probably dying because he hasn't killed you. Because that man's cycling himself out. And so, like, if your deck is playing in that Cycle Lock space, that is fair that matches will feel so much more determined by the draw.
Chat reminded me. This is kind of an Aaron mechanic, or a mechanic in relation to Aaron. But I do think there's a very cool space of both players wanting one or both players to cycle, and I'm excited to see how those races turn out.
Yeah, one last plus I'll put on Cycle Lock, and this is sort of true with Deadlock, but never really pans out that way, is player 1 is much more likely to cycle first.
Yeah.
Generally speaking. And so it is, in a sense, a small percentage bump for player 2 if it becomes an overall thing.
That's fair.
I like that way of thinking because, yeah, we definitely have... They've tried to do a lot to fix the player 1 issue. It's still there. Not as bad, but it's.
They have been printing a lot more characters that like going second. Not that prefer, because obviously that's how the game works. But there are a lot more characters now that prefer to go. Don't prefer, but enjoy going second if they have
get
to.
Paid for it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Than characters from older days that did the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well. Does anyone have any last thoughts before we move on?
That's going on the topics list is the Masters class in player 2.
Oh man, yeah, no.
Yeah, Kevin's made a Kanban board, and now, like, every contrarian Kevin hot take is on that thing
Kevin is
to
going
randomly
to
get
have
pulled into
Brother.
the show at some point.
Kevin's going to have
Brother.
100 ideas by the end of the week.
Hey, at least it's better than Thursday morning being like, all right, guys, what topic should we choose?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about
we're
talking
gonna-
about it like yesterday or the day before. I was just like, we'll sort it out.
Oh,
Thursday,
sure.
it'll be
I'm just.
Yeah.
It
Guys-
is
guys,
infinitely
we're
better
not
to
s-
have a list to like choose from.
They can't see behind the curtain at how unprepared we tend to be. They're not supposed to see that part.
fine. I think it's assumed.
All right.
It's humanizing.
Moving on, though. Unless Broberg had something he wanted to share for...
No, I'm typing.
So, we have got a regional coming up. I believe it's this weekend, right? I'm not wrong on dates. We have got our first UK regional, and the cool thing about this, I think this is the first event in a long while where we can really say it is the same, mostly the same format that we've been playing in. You don't have combined firepower unless you're Ghidorah.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And the Mortal Shapeshifter decks that bubbled in Denver aren't going to make an appearance. But, those notwithstanding, we have a deck, or we have a same format that gets to innovate on. And we've started to see some innovation in the webcam sphere, which might come up during this conversation, but we kind of wanted to play a similar game that we played at the beginning of Denver, a little prediction game of what do we think is going to be popular. I'm going to go ahead and let Tim take it away.
All right, yeah. Do we all have a writing utensil and an item to draw stuff on?
Yep.
Do you have your envelope, Kevin?
Oh, I have the same envelope. It's been written on before, but we can write on it again.
Heck yeah, man.
Good enough. There's all their space on it.
Goodness.
All right. Disregard vertical maneuvering equipment up here.
Yeah, I
Kevin,
certainly
the most
have-
professional.
Yeah, I very much haven't thought too much about my answer. All right. Question 1. What's going to be the most represented deck in the UK?
I don't think I have a pen.
I don't know, Kevin.
I rearranged my desk a little bit, and I lost my thing that had pens on it.
Kevin,
So I'll just go after y'all. I'll lock it in.
Kevin, never change, Kevin. Never change.
Most represented.
If Kevin copies any of our answers, we get to say he's cheating.
Perfect.
Well, I think Kevin goes first, so he can't copy our answers.
Ooh,
That's
Oh,
true.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
true.
good one.
Yeah, so it's Godzilla.
Because
Fuck.
it's the UK. Is that basically the logic? It's the UK, so it's Godzilla?
Godzilla's sweet, but yeah, it's probably not Godzilla, but I'm just saying it's Godzilla.
Okay, before we yap, everyone show. 3, 2, 1.
I also said Godzilla.
Wow, we have 3 different answers. Okay. So, let's kind of go around. Will and Kevin, you guys are the ones that agree, so why do you think it's going to be Godzilla? Is it just it's UK, or do you think there's anything in
It's a
Role?
little bit of UK. I just like seeing Godzilla do stuff. He's a big stompy lizard, and I love him.
So it's wish fulfillment also in part.
Yeah, I mean, also I think the 3 lists that were in Denver were really super cool, and I think the not having firepower or Immortal Shapeshifter might help those decks get kills a little bit easier, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think to an extent, Godzilla's just a very easy jumping off point, which makes him slightly more likely to be overrepresented.
Yeah, and look, like Godzilla was almost the one that I wrote down because, at least from talking to UK players, they have a lot of the players do have like a lot of loyalty to Godzilla, like as a character. In the same way that some people are like overly passionate about, I don't know, hypothetically a character like Smiling Titan, like a lot of players in the UK are really passionate about their Godzilla deck. So I think that that's a very good choice.
The chat question of why Godzilla when you can get Godzilla 4 cancel the turn, because Godzilla 4 cancel the turn isn't a giant lizard, all right? That's why.
And Godzilla 4 cancel the turn is not Godzilla at all.
Exactly.
It's a different deck. It's a like
They sure do play on chaos.
Like, one of these characters has double progressive difficulty, and one of these characters has -2 difficulty on his face. Like, they're completely different.
That's literally like, why do you play a deck that kills people when you can play a deck that kills people with cancels? And I guess that's a true statement, but like, what?
But big lizard.
I put Nick Reagan, and I almost did. Like, I think we kind of are right that these are like somewhere in the top 3. I put Nick Reagan because like It was really successful at Denver. It is the UK is known for being the aggro region. They really like their aggressive decks, and it is probably the go-to aggro deck right now. It's kind of known what it's doing, and Devil Jin has seen success at things like the webcam events, and I'm not dismissing those at all, like those competitive values or anything. So it's not what I'm saying. I say this. They don't get the same sort of attention. So I don't know if the communication circles have really gone on to Devil Jin is a hot thing to play. We should all be, building and taking Devil Jin. Whereas I think Nick Reagan is.
I can't say. I've had people ask me, is Nick Reagan the best deck in the format? Did I say Nick Reagan? I literally meant Devil Jin. Sorry. Like 2 or 3 people have posited that to be the story of the metagame, that Devil Jin is the best deck and everything else is orbiting around Devil Jin as the center of the field.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy that per se. Sorry.
I told them I did not think that they were correct to say that he's the best deck in the format, but he is a pillar, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
I think this is...
He's definitely up there.
So the question is most represented deck, not what deck's going to show up the most in tops.
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing we've seen with the UK that happens pretty much every time is you have like 2 or 3, I don't know if it's 2 or 3, but it's either 2 or 3 pockets of players. You have the Scots, you have, I think, Mike Hardiman, Luke Quincy, Grant Padley, Liam Chauner. Like I believe that is one collective play group or testing partners or something. There might be 2 groups within there or something like that. And generally speaking, what happens is, for the most part, the entirety one of these groups will show up with a deck. Maybe one or 2 people decide to go play something else. And so this is how there was like 7 or 8 Deku 6s at the Smiling Titan Regional, because people surmised that this was an answer to Smiling Titan, and then another subgroup came in with Bakugo as an answer to the Dekus. Right. So what's probably going to happen, this seems to happen almost every time, is there's like 2 or 3 decks that seem disproportionately represented compared to what you would get in like a 80-person NA field or something, because there's 50, 60, 70 people probably going to be at this region. I'm guesstimating, and you're going to have these 2 or 3 pockets of 5, 6, 7 players each that are all playing the same thing. And Devil Jin, it just strikes me as one of the kinds of things that one of those groups would say, we've done a bunch of testing, we're testing into Nick Reagan, we're testing this, we're testing into that, and we think Devil Jin's good into all of them, so we're going to bring Devil Jin.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think Devil Jin's weakness, so to say, is more at dealing with random stuff, where like either he just doesn't know what to cancel, or they're just, they're not operating on a I have this really powerful deck that needs to resolve these certain powerful enhances. I'm a Nick Reagan, I need my character to function, or something like that, where he has to like play. They're just blocking and then attacking him with stats and asking the 5-hander if he can block things, and then blocking him some more without relying on a whole lot of bells and whistles. Can fight that deck pretty well.
I do think I robbed Nick Reagan. I think is going to be the most represented. I think if there's anything that stops it, it is the fear of the Devil Jins. It is being told, oh, if they put a Goblin Bolt in between my +2/+2 and activating the thing I removed, I just can't use the good part of my character. And while I do not think that matchup is like the death knell for Nick Reagan that some think it is, I can certainly see that scaring people off of the character.
Mm-hmm. What matchup is the death knell for Nick Reagan that I think it is Hanji 2. Hanji 4 Eyes messes that unicorn up, dude.
We don't even need combined firepower.
Not at all, no. Dude, who needs combined? You have
two rocket launchers. The guy who didn't play that version of that deck.
Yeah, wait, bro.
Yeah, Kevin is alluding to our team's run, in which he massacred consecutive Nick Reagans with the turn 2 kill or variation of the turn 2 kill Hanji.
Yeah, but like it felt like a. I mean, I wasn't even like I didn't have freaking Babylor releases. That's really good in that matchup, right? Like, the theory is just that you put a bunch of 10 damage moves on his head and you live his kill turns because they're not that pointy, and you have a lot of ways to resourcefully mitigate the fat damage he can cough up. And you make him block a lot if he wants to live, and Nick Reagan's not good at blocking a lot.
All right.
But
I do agree. I think these are. I think it's broad scope. It is one of these three characters. I have a hard time imagining and maybe I'm wrong, but I have a hard time imagining UK is going to go and say, "Hey, Tyrion, that's the guy we should all take."
It could be anything.
It could
I
be
think
because
almost. I'm ready and willing to be surprised by like another Bakugo case where like, oh, one of the pods of players decided this was the deck. Like, yeah,
Yes.
sure, let's see it.
if
I
it
think
is
Bakugo probably right.
Bakugo was legitimately like the answer to that metagame, by the way. Like Richie kind of
if it is, and it's kind of interesting because I've talked about before how Universes doesn't have metas and doesn't have anti-metas decks in the same way that you might expect something like Yu-Gi-Oh, because you don't really get 50% of the player base playing one deck. But EU's smaller size and being more, I don't want to use the word clicky, but as Tim said, kind of pocket based, means that you do sometimes see anti-meta decks there, like a Bakugo deck, show up that are like good, but are directly answering what they think the other people are going to play there. And in that instance, yeah, maybe that there is like a deck that slaughters Nick Reagan and Deviljin and Godzilla, and so they think if one of those is going to play, those are going to be the ones the rest of EU plays. They're going to come in with this pocket deck.
It could just be Rodan for all we know, right?
Could
be. It could just be Rodan.
Maybe we just say firepower doesn't matter.
People. I get that there's this weird like aggro player thing that people apply to the UK, but I think about the UK. I think about a bunch of guys that played Eraserhead until the end of time, right?
Yeah,
yeah. I think of like Mike Hardiman. Does Mike Hardiman ever play? He's probably played an aggro deck at some point. Like,
I think I remember not what I think about that, and he had there was like a meta where there was a clearly like the best deck was clearly an aggro deck, and he played that deck.
Hasn't he played Godzilla before?
I doubt it.
I'm unsure.
I don't think Hardiman has. I could be wrong.
I could be wrong. I could be way off base. But
yeah, I think like
I guess the Bakugo was an aggro deck for what it's worth. Sort of.
I think a lot of metagames come down to, or a lot of sort of communities kind of shake out like I think like the UK is shaped like, where they have a bunch of players who are quite skilled and who like playing control, and then you have a bunch of other folks who are growing up playing against Mike Hardiman every week and saying, well, how do I beat this? I certainly don't know how to play control like that. I'm going to play the coin flippy deck that can crash into it, and I'm going to play coin flip mirrors with other people. And then there's just sort of a that's the general shape of things, and that makes a lot of sense why the field would look like that, and why the results sometimes shake out like that, depending on what's available in the field for everyone to be playing.
Alrighty.
All right. So representation aside,
yep.
What's winning the event? What character wins this event? I ask without having any idea what my answer is.
I have a choice. I have a pick.
I have a pick.
I don't love my pick, but I have one.
All right, I'm saying Deku 6.
I like it.
Fair. All right.
Any elaboration on that? Probably not.
It's a nice option select because it could be One Punch. It could be like this mid range.
Yeah.
I have 6 attune symbols that are all 5 of them are supported now. Like
it's 5 symbols. But yeah.
It's anyway. A deep pool of playables now. So there's something there.
All right. What else we got? 2 Mitches and a Deviljin.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about Deviljin a lot.
Mitch is in that same category with Deku of like, this is actually 6 decks we're like option selecting over.
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat much on Deviljin. All I'm going to say is because I think Nick Reagan's going to be really popular, and I think Deviljin's also going to be really popular. I think with those being 2 of the most popular decks, and I don't think it's a slaughter. It has a favorable matchup. I think like probabilistically, without knowing individual players and what they might be taking in the same way I did Denver, that's just like a safe bet for me.
Yeah,
I think like Nick Deviljin feels competitive to me if the Nick player doesn't just give up.
Possible.
I think it's a 5 square.
I put it about 60-40 to 70-30 Deviljin favor.
And they start putting. I remembered the name of the card before I tried to say
Goblin Bolt.
No, the Kurogiri card that snipes the discard that they could certainly play.
Ooh.
Yeah, the time slow block. Community time.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
But Yeah, I don't know. You want to talk about Mitch Will first?
I mean, I've just been playing it a lot against Mitch recently, and that character, if he manages to see a VME, I think he has not impenetrable, but very, very solid defense. And I think he can also rush down a Devil Jin if he doesn't kill him fast enough. If he can survive a Nick onslaught, it's very easy for Mitch to deal good damage. Like, the character is very strong.
Yeah. My thinking is really as much as anything, it's about the order symbol.
Yeah.
I think whether it's Mitch or Krista or Targan, I just think Mitch is probably the most likely to show up in people that are aiming to win. I think Hacker's obviously good right now, and I think Runaway is really good against both Devil Jin and Nick Reagan, and Ascend to Battle Rodons for that matter. So I think Runaways and Hacker are two really good cards that share a symbol, and there's multiple really good options for characters on that symbol. So, the corollary to me picking Mitch is I'm kind of picking the order symbol, but Mitch is also good on the other two symbols, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah, I really like the deck that Justin showed up with at Denver that was like no attacks Mitch. I thought was very impressive. Like,
that was a cool deck.
Kind of solves it's really hard to play a mid-range aggro oriented Mitch that doesn't feel like you're trading off a lot of your strengths to some extent. And I really like the Chaos deck got to be committed to what it was doing and still had some kind of explosive potential in its pocket even with the low attack count, and the ability to play some good footsies in there that if you just ignored him, he was going to completely clown you with free mega value stuff.
All right. Next one, we're not going to force any rules on what counts as a surprise, but what do you think would be a surprise Top Cuts appearance?
Oh, I got mine queued up. I got locked in. It's like it is also possible that 0 people register this character. It's
yeah. That's good. That's a good qualification for surprise.
Yeah. Justin, you got yours locked in?
Oh, sorry. I was trying to delete the messages of the person who's doing Invincible roleplay in the chat.
I'm not even seeing it, so you're doing a good job, I guess.
I see it.
This is about the thousands of
I'm
people.
entertained.
Oh, I see.
Like that's.
All right. Wait, what was the question? I apologize. I had to.
What's a surprising outcome from this regional?
No, it's a surprise character in the Top Cut.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Gotcha. People are going to be mad about my answer, but I'm putting it down. Okay, I got mine.
Okay.
Mine is a top 8 competitor from the World Championships, Ymir.
I don't know if Ymir would be a surprise, but
no, but they banned Shapeshifter. No one's playing her.
Oh yeah, she's dead. That's right. They killed Shapeshifter.
A lot of people think that
doesn't work
character
anymore,
is dead
supposedly.
without Shapeshifter, which is
they're completely out of their minds.
Yeah, I agree.
All right,
Don't worry, I'm on your side.
Pony?
Yeah. I'll explain why. I'll explain why.
Okay.
All right.
So, what do you got for Pony?
I'll explain why. Is because she didn't show up at all at Denver. I still think she's a nutso character, and a lot of people still do. But I think it'll be a surprise there because she didn't show up at all at the last regional. And I mean, I might be wrong for what it's worth. I don't think I've seen that many, if any, UK players playing Pony. So that's why I count her as a surprise for the UK regional.
Yeah, I think that's fair. She was that Boris had event. She was one of the 2 finalists.
Yes, absolutely.
Other than that, she's been absent. That was an air build. I have some interest in Fire Pony right now. That is just vague interest that hasn't turned into a deck list yet. Justin picked Smiling Titan. You got a proxy going out there running your list?
This is 100% cope. Like, it is 110%. I am coping.
I don't think Smiling Titan's bad.
Oh no, let me be clear. I think if a EU player put the work in that I think is like to make know that deck, I think that it would be realistic. I'm taking it to ABQ for a reason. But I don't think anyone at EU is actually going to play Smiling Titan.
All right, yeah. I picked Not too. An actual, like, kind of a little bit off the radar character. This is sort of just, I think a lot of people just really like this deck. Right. I see like a number of different people just like, man, I really like my Not 2 deck, various Discords and stuff. I don't know about the UK specifically, but that seems like the kind of pet deck that someone sneaks into a top 8 with, because they've just been working it.
I do think so. I built a Nod 2 on air. It's very similar to the one that Tam ended up showing in his like top 8 stuff. That deck, boy, does it generate a million momentum. Specifically, Fajin's Flurry. Like, if you have a Fajin's Flurry and a second wielder out, you can like play an attack. So you'll play like the 5 diff that gets a momentum. You'll then play Flurry. You'll commit a second wielder and flip the 5 diff. Give 3 speed, get a momentum. You'll then not for 3 speed, get a momentum. If they have 6 or more foundations, you'll pop it for EX3, get a momentum. You're throwing a 9/7 at them, and you just got 3 momentum, so all your other stuff's coming in for 4 to 5 speed. Like, that deck just spits out momentum. I just don't know if it has the defense to survive. That's the only reason I'm not as sold on it. Offensively, I think it's cool.
I gotta build frickin' Fajin Flurry Mitchell Cimino.
Fajin Flurry, Fajin Flurry is a card that I think needs to be experimented with more. I think that card is so good at just doing its thing.
All right, last one on the list. Pick a standout card that will be around in top cuts doing stuff on people like, oh yeah, that card's pretty good. That's not an obviously known quantity good card.
Oh, so I can't just say Ready Chat. Okay.
Yeah, what do I want to put down for that matter?
I don't know what I want to put down because I don't know what the correct answer here is.
Oh, I should build that. Forcheck EA.
It's a funny deck. Our local played it again, I think on Tuesday, and it was very funny watching him bully the Mollymok player.
Ooh, how's his Devil Jin matchup?
I don't know. I think the only person in our locals who has a Devil Jin currently is Dan Tickle, and he has not played in a while.
Yeah. I guess he tries to block with a Goblin Bolt. I can just say, get out of here.
I've got my choice. I don't know if this is too unknown.
I don't have mine.
My card.
Mine is just a long that I'm working on writing.
That's fair. Mine has very good words on it, but no one's been playing it, so.
This is a total spit take.
I think I'm complete. I'm like shooting down every single card that I could think of as like either too popular or I can't think of it. So I think I'm just gonna pass.
Okay. All right. What do we got? Oh, all right. So Justin, I think we all know that card's good, Justin.
I just haven't seen it in any top cuts, so I didn't know.
Okay. Levi's Rampage. Let's hear about Levi's Rampage.
That card has really good words on it. As Dan said in the chat earlier, he's been playing a Levi's Rampage Mitchell deck, and I think there's a possibility that a Levi's Rampage Mitchell deck should just show up and just be completely out of left field and knock people down with it. Because sometimes playing the what is it, a 5/4? It's like a 5 mid-4. Yeah, playing the 5/4 4 or 5 times, then playing more attacks after that, and then getting all the momentum you spent to echo it back at the end of the turn seems really, really good.
Now the clutch play with Levi's Rampage is it's just a 5 mid-4 unblockable.
No, the clutch play
you don't even echo it.
The clutch play is to, on your last echo of it, use finger guns and pick it up. And Dan has been doing that shit to us for the last week.
All right, yeah. I picked Pressured by All for One. For those that don't remember that card, that is a 2/4 foundation from Girl Power that lets you blow up 2 foundations to give a ranged or weapon attack +3 damage.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think Void decks in particular, but also to some extent some air decks, but decks that were formerly playing Combined Firepower are going to be looking for ways to replace that damage. And I think the Void lineup and some of these attack lineups end up being very ranged and weapon heavy. And this is a pretty good way to secure some reach in your deck if you're looking to find some more damage. And I wouldn't be surprised. It's a unique, but I wouldn't be surprised to see 2 or 3 copies in some decks.
Right.
Trying to find that card. I'm going to change my answer to one that is probably a little less known because I was reminded of it from Will's Levi's Rampage mention. If Pony or Not 2 show up, I think one of the cards that's going to really show up there Levi's Relentless Spirit, I think, is a
Mm.
very,
Oh,
very
that's the
good
one that
card.
readies itself, right?
It can ready
Yeah.
itself
Yes,
up to
on hit
3
on tap.
times on
Yeah,
a
yeah,
single
yeah, yeah,
turn.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I was thinking the right card.
I think like in Knot 2, that card is nuts because you get so much speed by your turn 3 and turn 4. Almost every attack hits. And so it kind of ends up feeling like another version of the incompatible quirks where you're just re-readying it every attack to reduce difficulty. And like in Pony, similarly, it just can make your turn 2s get so explosive because once the shields are down, instead of 3 checks mean you commit 2, now 3 checks you're committing 1. So I think if either of those cards end up being relevant, or any of those characters end up being relevant, anyone that has the air symbol, I think you might see a lot of Levi's Relentless Spirit.
That's fair.
I feel like Thunder Spirit demo is basically the same energy as Levi's Relentless Spirit, just like in a slightly different package, right? Like -1 difficulty for the entire turn. If you play 4 attacks, that's as much as 4 foundations.
I think in like a Knot, I would agree with you. Probably not as much in like a Pony where you're already doing all the clearing.
Yeah. Not for Pony, yeah, but there's an increasing density of playable air stuff.
Yeah.
I've been messing around. I've heard folks messing around with Sasha. I've been messing around with this Sling deck. So I no longer think it's playable,
Sasha
but it's
won?
really funny. Yes.
Yeah.
God, I've wanted to build a Sasha 1 deck so bad when I
That
realized
character looks so fun.
when I realized she can like discard on defense to just do damage reduction if you have recoup times.
Yeah.
I wanted to build that deck.
All right, I'm going to take one bonus shot at answer to Titanstone Knuckles.
Yeah.
I'm ready to see that
Yeah.
card do work.
That card's
Some good asset hate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that card's really cool.
And good reach.
If one that I don't think we'll see play because I don't think its symbols will see a ton of play, but I've been loving if we're doing the CR Critical Role UR assets is Star Razor.
You could have just said the Vestiges.
The Vestiges, yeah. I think Star Razor's really good.
Oh, of course it is.
I
I think that and Cabal's Ruin are like the best two, right? Like
Yeah. Those are the obviously good ones.
yeah.
But honestly, I think almost every Vestige has a deck where it's good in.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Like I think that those are some really well printed ones. I'm looking at them right now.
You might want another round
I
of
think
spells.
I think
I'm not very
might
in on
be-
the bow.
That's fair. Yeah, the bow is.
I was about to say
neat,
the
but
bow's
it's
the
not great.
weakest.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bow is basically yet another Vexalia keyword character trait card.
Right.
Basically,
Yeah.
she has like 11.
Right.
Yeah.
I like
You have
this,
Market Prey in your card pool. Pop off.
right. I like the spell one, but that's also just because of me playing a lot of Jester 1, and that card gives me damage when I don't have a lot of it.
Mm.
So
Right.
Oh yeah, is it just +1 damage to all your spells?
yeah,
And then
every
also
spell
on
gets
hit.
+1. Yeah.
Yeah, my eyes get caught on your spells get on hit draw a card.
That's fair.
We should talk about Critical Role Spotlight next week before our
Ooh,
local
that'd be-
championship.
I haven't played any, but I'd be down to talk about it because it seems fun.
We're about to in a couple of weeks here.
Nice. Nice.
I'm down to talk about it. Absolutely.
Justin, you're doing something later tonight.
Yeah,
Correct?
I'm doing something in just a couple of minutes, and I have to make some last-minute changes to my deck, which I'm going to claim to David that I'm going to the restroom during. I'm sure that this won't get sent to David as like, hey, he's coping. So David and I have a history of money matches, and David's yet to win one. And so David revealed Reiner 3. He made a big deal with Reiner 3, and obviously we always hype up the characters we get. And I said Reiner 3 is mid, and I do think Reiner 3 is very mid. I think people are focused on the payoff and not on how hard it is to get there. And we argued back and forth, and he said, why don't you prove it? Bring 3 decks, and we will do a money match, $100. Whoever can win 2 of the 3 best of 3s with those respective characters. So I'm showing up. I am bringing Smiling Titan, King Ghidorah, and Reiner 2. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to smoke him. Like, I know people are like, oh, he's nervous. Oh, he's quaking his boots. Let's be clear. That's so far from the truth. Because if I lose this, I'm still up $200 net against.
Also, I'm gonna put this out in the world. David is the only person out there who even remotely rivals Justin on cockiness. There's no way this man is nervous about this.
Live to $100 per match. No, Zach, because I do have to afford Albuquerque, and on the rare chance that I check bad and lose, I don't think I could lose $300. But I'm going. We're gonna be on live on his channel. He is actually bringing 3 different versions of Reiner 3, which I think is going to make his situation far worse because instead of playing the best version, he now has to try to win with at least 2 different versions. But I'm not going to stop him from that. So
it's for the content.
It's for the content. Do it for the content. And hey, in fairness, I have not played a King Ghidorah game in like 8 months.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, you have the preloaded kill buff. If he actually wins, well, his pre-release character is completely broken.
True.
But if you're pre-coping, then I never played this character. Like, you've never played your deck either. Like, that's you're kind of selling that one out.
Well. So I'll tell you this one: if I lose with Smiling or Reiner, then it's that his character's broken because I know those decks. If I lose to King Ghidorah is a meme. People will see it on stream when we do it. King Ghidorah is just to see if I can make his life hell. Like,
yeah, when I saw your lineup that you had the character with your favorite character with 1 life, then the character with 2 lives, and the character with 3 lives, I thought that was like the gag.
No,
I was really flummoxed. But I like you told me what the vision is. I'm excited to see how these play out. They are different decks, and that's cool.
I was almost too arrogant. Will knows this. I almost took Mikasa 1 in place of Reiner as my aggro deck. And I said, because Mikasa 1 also gets Animus Shot, and I thought that'd be funny.
Mikasa gets Animus Shot and Sweeping Daggers. That is so sick.
And so I was this so close. Funny. And then I looked at it, and I'm like, this deck doesn't kill people. All these moves are coming in for like 4 damage.
That's fine. You're playing a million of them. Just find other ways to draw cards. You're fine.
So Fighting with Reiner 1, Smiling 1, Mikasa 1, 3 Armada AOT 1 characters.
So David's Brigade has hopped in chat to glaze him and try to get on my nerves. It ain't gonna work because I'm about to win another $100. I'm about to be another $100 Witcher. He's at this point gonna pay for Albuquerque. Like, people saying I'm using more forechecks. Since David did require that I play different play styles. Because if he hadn't required it, I would have brought a Reiner D build that's all 4 checks, a Smiling 10 that's all 4 checks, and maybe a third 4-check deck just for good measure at that point. But I was in fact told I had to bring 3 separate play styles.
Yeah. Also, if you're playing different play styles, it would feel cheesy to just bring, if you weren't doing the 3 different play styles. I mean, it also feel very cheesy to just play 3 decks that can play Animus Shot.
Yes. On the other hand, I want to win $100 from David, y'all.
Oh no, that's fair. It's just also one of those things where it's like, if you do that, you open yourself up to, well, he only won because he played the 1 card.
Oh, he's going to cope decks. Like that anyways. You already saw people say that Smiling Titan is cheese. They're going to be like, oh, you just won with the cheese character.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see this match. I can't wait till we see that. I promise at some point, by the way, 4Check's audience, this is not going to be the Smiling Titan show every week. Or at least we're not going to close on the Smiling Titan every week. Next week we'll have to like front load the Smiling Titan, maybe.
They'll have to stop me.
Drew, you know Reiner 2 doesn't have death, right? Reiner 2 is Chaos Fire, not death.
Imagine the Warhammer Titan drops, and next week talking about a Death Life Titan character again at the end of the show.
Dude, if Warhammer drops and it's a 4-check life death character, you guys are going to have to physically stop me from talking.
I'm still on Cypher gets buffs before Warhammer Titan shows up.
I think if you guys want to pay attention in David's Discord, I am posting a meme for every single day we don't get Warhammer Titan.
All right, we should let you get to that though.
Yes,
1 minute.
We're apparently starting at 8:15, so I'm going to go make those last minute deck changes and actually make sure they're correct. And then we're going to have it going. So I will see you all there.
For everyone who doesn't know, David's channel is youtube.com/@talkuvs, TALKUVS. That way everyone can go watch, hopefully, Justin beat him up in 3 rounds. At least 2.
Before we hop off, just to shout out all of our channels. Tim Keefe, you're Satonis, right?
Yep, Stonus on YouTube, technically on Twitch, but I pretty much just stream 14 Frogs sometimes.
And Broberg, do you have a new name for your channel? It looked different last time I saw it, or is it the same name?
I think I changed my alias, but it's still Broberg Universes.
Cool.
And
cool.
I think I had like sense that I was gonna like launch the new alias at some point. I just like clicked the button to submit it on the. So I have a new app.
Hey, we never change titles on time here. And then, while I don't have a channel myself at this current point in time, and Will is not as well, we do have a VOD channel. It is the same thing as here, 4Checks Cast. Tomorrow's Good Friday, which means I don't have work, so hopefully this podcast will be put up tomorrow. I have never forgotten something like that a day in my life, so you should see it up in the next couple of days.
It's a lot harder to forget it when I'm hounding you about it.
Yep.
Every 24 hours.
So, thank you all so much for coming. Great show. We will see y'all later.
Take care.
Yeah, good night.
See ya.